Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Seeds of Triumph podcast. We are all about helping service members navigate through the difficult and challenging experiences that come with serving in the military. Here on Seeds of Triumph, we will discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly, as well as provide several resources, techniques, and coping mechanisms that can be used every day to instill overall toughness, wellness, and resiliency into our military force. Thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy what we have to provide. Welcome to another episode of the Seeds of Triumph podcast. Today, we're going to be talking to Master Chief Ponciano about his experiences in the Navy. And before I get started, I just want to put out a little disclaimer. The content of this episode could provide some commentary about death, PTSD, and acts of terror aboard a U.S. naval vessel. So please be advised that some of this could be hard to listen to and digest. Master Chief Ponciano was born in the Dominican Republic, and he later moved to New Jersey. He joined the Navy right after high school in 1999 and checked on board his first ship, the USS Cole, as a seaman. Seaman Ponciano was part of a significant moment in naval and American history. He served aboard the USS Cole on October 12th, year 2000. On October 12th, year 2000, the USS Cole was attacked by Al Qaeda terrorist suicide bombers. This attack left 17 sailors dead and 39 injured. This attack also left Seaman Ponciano with PTSD, but he didn't let it break him. Master Chief Ponciano continues to thrive in his naval career after 23 selfless years. He is a true hero and example of what it means to triumph. Master Chief, thank you for coming on and talking to me today. I know that your story is going to be so impactful to the audience, and I can't wait to hear it. Would you like to provide some more information about yourself?
First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to, have a conversation with you just about, my career, the things that I saw and experienced in the U.S. Cole, and how the Navy has helped me, been able to deal with PTSD, and as you very nicely put it, continue to be successful and continue to thrive, not only as a sailor, but most importantly as a person. So you kind of hit on the major points. As you could probably notice from my accent, I was born in the Dominican Republic, and I'm the oldest of three, brothers. Um, I have a beautiful 21-year-old daughter, and I have a very animated 9-year-old son, and they're on my world. So from the coal, I went limb due to PTSD, and then I went to Nick Tam's land for about a good year. I was clear from limb duty, and I went to Strike Group 8, where I was the staff, embarked both the George Washington, and then we did also on a deployment on the Ike. From there, I went to Bahrain, and then from Bahrain, I went to Jack Moswell in England, which to this day is one of my best duty station. I picked up first class there, and although it was supposed to be a 3-year tour, the chief's mess was like, "Hey, you're doing great things here. You need to go back to sea." And at the same time, I was still, going through counseling to trying to, work on my PTSD. And one of the things that the counselor said was to face my fear and to take orders to a destroyer, and I did. So not only was a career handsome, but also was personally something that I needed to do to face those fears. So I went to the USS Fort Sherman out of Norfolk, picked up chief there back in 2011. I was very lucky that I was able to stay on board the ship. A lot of times they redirect chiefs as soon as you make chief, they send you somewhere else, but stay there, which allowed me to flourish even more because I already knew the crew. I didn't have to start over. I literally, like, I used to be the assistant section leader as a first class, and then after pinning, I became the section leader of the section. So it wasn't a big of transition. Then from there, I got stationed in Corey Station as the training manager for all C schools. Picked up senior chief there, and from there, after 3 years, I got stationed in Desert 22. Another part of my challenge was actually to go on board the Cole because I went about 10 years without going on board the ship, probably even more. I was I didn't want to face that part, and that was part of the gradually moving into dealing with my PTSD. Was going to a destroyer. I did that. Then it was you need to go and be able to go embark the ship, and I was blessed that there were part of I was the ISIC for the Cole as part of the Deseron, so I had her under my leadership as the senior lister advisor for the Deseron for 3 years, and it was a true blessing not only because I was able to face my own fears, but I was also able to see how resilient and amazing sailors were just simply because they felt a extra level of duty because they were on board the Cole. So then from there, I went to Sicily and was there for 2 years. And then I applied for this program that's called MACO, which stands for Masters of Application in Cybersecurity and Operations. And it's pretty much what it is the Navy takes CTNs and ITs. They already have a bachelor's degree, and you put an application, and then they send you, if you're selected, they send you to the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey to get a master's degree in cybersecurity. And then you have to give the Navy
Wow.
some time back, yes, and then you get 3 years. You have to give 3 years back, which puts me now where I'm at, which is in 10th Fleet and Fleet Cyber Command. Um,
Okay.
so I'm the department LCPO slash cell for the N6 department, and I'm also now the warrior toughness coordinator for the domain.
Oh, that's awesome. I have so many questions about warrior toughness. Um, Quick question though.
Yes.
The program for your master's degree, is that open to like is it closed off at a certain rank?
I unfortunately is only open to two rates right now. It's only ITs and CTNs, and it's from E6 to E8.
Wow, that's a really great opportunity.
It's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
The only major requirements is you have to have a bachelor already because you're going for a master's, and the bachelor has to be in the computer field as well. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, but besides that, because even me, I was at that time I was already 19 years in, so I was like, they're not gonna pick me. I don't have that many years to give the Navy back. But my package, I guess, was really good, and funny enough, because I didn't believe that I was gonna get picked. Only for my age, my package was good. I just thought, 19 years. I was already working on another master's, so now I have two. Um,
That's what's up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it worked out, and I love the fact of the command that I'm in now, which is 10th Fleet, which is that part of the requirement for the command for the program. Once you get picked up, you go for the year, and now it's up to 15 months. You graduate, and then you go to a cyber billet after that.
Okay, that's awesome. One of the biggest things for me, I'll say the reason I joined the military, I'll just be honest, was to get my education. So, just like you, I also joined right out of high school and I just got my bachelor's degree last year. So, that's
Awesome,
awesome that you got your
congratulations.
bachelor's and now you're working on two master's degrees. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I push education every opportunity that I can.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit in the sense of like when I joined the military, which that was my main reason at that time. It was to I joined to go to school, and quick story: when I went to the recruiter, I took my ass back for the army actually, but the army did not was only talking about infantry, and I was like, I want to work with computers, so I don't know what you're talking about. And I don't know if it was the same in your town, but when I in my recruiting office, it was literally you walk outside one office, all the other offices are in the same P-way.
It was the same
So
for me. Yeah.
so I literally walked into the Navy guy, and I was like, "What you got to offer?" And he was like, "Oh, I could give you that job that you want." And I was like, "If you get my paperwork from the Army guy, I'm yours." Um, and the main reason after college was my recruiter had a wall full of pictures of like different countries that he's been to, and he was a young man, E5, maybe like 25, 26. So he was always had a beautiful lady next to him as well. And I was like, I want to travel and I want to take pictures like that too. So that was my motivation as a 19-year-old or 18-year-old at the time. But yeah, and then as far as college, I started late. So I applaud you. I started going to school already with 13 years in the Navy. I was already a chief when I started. And but once I started and I said like achievable goals, because at the beginning I will try it, and I went for the put my college plan for a bachelor, and that seems so far in so many classes that I never continue. I will always just take one class and then be like, that's too much. And then when I was in Corey Station, I went to the college office, and the lady was like, why don't you try for an associate? And we go from there, and that was a blessing because it was less things that I had to do, and because I took in class here and there, and I already had all these credits, so I got my bachelor. I mean, my associate, and then I jump immediately to my bachelor, and then, like I said, I jump into my first master's. So yeah, now, yet last year I graduated and from both of my masters. So I'm done
That
with
is
school for now.
awesome. Yes, congrats.
Thank you, thank you. And then a little bit more about me and this, what like my passions. First, it's my kids. Like my kids and my mom, they drive me to be the best that I could be. I'm never gonna be perfect. I don't try to be perfect. But anything I do, I feel and I want that if you as a sailor and another sailor are sitting down in the diner and you guys are talking about me, if my kids are in the other table but you guys don't know that they're my kids, that they'll feel proud of what you're saying. That
Yeah,
because they can feel proud as far as like what they see on the wall as far as like promotions and awards and things like that. But there's something more impactful when other people can tell you about how a person made them feel as a human, as a person, then it's just not the rank. So that's what I thrive for. I don't succeed all the time because I'm human. I got my own temper. I got my own things that I need to work on as a human. But I feel like if you strive to be the best person that you could be daily, and then treat people the same way you will like yourself, or even better, your own children or your own mother to be treated, I think that you could do great things.
I
So
think
that's
so
my
too.
passion. I love traveling as well. The Navy has spoiled me, and then I also travel on my own. And I'm very passionate of warrior toughness. I feel like I've been blessed that my CMC was like, you're gonna be the guy, and I'm really looking forward to traveling to the different commands within my domain to be able to teach the class and you know get to see what our sailors are doing, and get them to better understand what is the meaning within warrior toughness, because I think too many people are right now I'm not looking at it in the best way, because they just simply toughness, they put it where strength physically more than anything, and there's a lot more to it which we could talk
Mhm.
about later on about.
Mhm. Mhm. I agree. Well, I don't know if Hawaii is in your domain, but you should definitely come out here and talk to my command. That would be awesome.
So it's funny that you say that, because I am going to Hawaii, and
Oh,
if I'm not mistaken, I think I will be doing your command and Nick Temp's pack together in the same week. So
awesome.
yes.
Well, super excited about that. I'm gonna go back to work and spill the beans, but guess who's coming? All right. We'll make sure, yeah, we get max participation out there because it's
Please.
such an important topic.
It is. It definitely is.
And on that brings me to I want to talk to you about kind of the current state of, mental health in the Navy and in the military as you see it.
Okay.
I know that just like a lot of us, and that's kind of the basis behind me starting up this podcast, is that there's a huge mental health care stigma out there that prevents a lot of service members from seeking help. And I can't tell you how many times I have come across a post on Reddit or Facebook of a sailor or service member, posting anonymously, right? Because you can do that these days, asking for help or saying that they're scared to ask their leadership, or they don't know where to go, or they don't want to get discharged, or they don't want to lose their clearance. So, yeah, I just want to, have a conversation about, how you see mental health in the Navy.
So I think for me to be able to give you and your audience the best picture in regards to my background and how I seen the progress is from the Cole. Go back to when it happened, uh, and back in 2000, and the Navy took one big step back then that I don't think a lot of people give the Navy credit for. And what it was is we were mandated, everybody from the Cole, once we got back from Yemen, which by the way I came earlier than the rest of the crew because I was assigned to escort one of the bodies because he was an ITSN and we were really good friends, and they wanted me to escort his body back. So I left earlier compared to a lot of the people. So I left on the 16th of October, 4 days after the bombing. Most of the crew left on the 2nd of November. So once I landed in Virginia, the first thing that I was told to do was to go to Portsmouth. And they did an exam, a bunch of exams, to be honest, physically and then mentally. They asked a bunch of questions and how we felt. And then when I got back, because they sent me on convalescent leave, when I got back, I was told, okay, you are like borderline, but you don't need to go see anybody specifically. And then I want to say every 3 months, everybody that was part of the crew had to take these questions, and then from there they will see where were you at. So let's say the exam that I took or the questions that I did, 3 months prior. How are you sleeping from 1 to 10? 10 being the worst, one being good. If I 3 months prior, I said that I was sleeping on a 2, which is pretty good, but then 3 months later I was on a 9, then they will count that and see to the point where they will be like, okay, now you need to see someone. So I bring that up to say that even then, although maybe it was not being announced like this is the resource and this and the thing, the Navy kind of like forces, which I'm grateful because given you my background where I'm from in the Dominican Republic and the macho mentality that I was raised in, going to see someone was a sign of weakness. So at 19 years old, I don't think I would have done it myself.
Mhm.
Being honest, I don't think I could have been having nightmares and living miserably, but I would have not gone talk to anybody because just weakness. The way that I was brought up, it's just simply, go have a few drinks, you're gonna be okay, or go work out, something else besides talking to someone. So I'll start with that. Then as my career moved on, and I moved, the resources were always there. It's just that a lot of commands that I went to, a lot of people were either in my own situation that never looked for help themselves or didn't understand what resources were there. So if I didn't say something and ask for the help or look to go to the different resources like your Fleet Family Support Center, like your Military One Source, to the actual hospital, if I didn't do those things myself, then there were folks that, although they knew my background, because a lot of my chain of command as I went through, got went to different commands, they knew because I've always been very open about me having PTSD and dealing with those things. They never said if they saw me acting a certain way, hey, you need to go see somebody. They will always leave it up to me. So I say that is that sometimes the resources are there, but us as sailors sometimes don't take advantage of it, right? Um, so as I've gone on, I feel like there is now more openness about it. You see it more on our own websites. Like you see it in my Navy HR. Like if you need help, these are the lines that you go to. You see it in some of the military groups that you see on Facebook. Um, you know, where you see other sailors, which is awesome. Not only just leadership, but then all the sailors when a sailor puts something there, even whether they're anonymous or not, I need help, I'm having a struggle. If you look at the comments, the vast majority, thankfully, are other sailors saying, hey, you need to go see someone. or here's the phone number to go see. And I think that that is just from all of us putting back into our own people like it was put into us. So I know I've been helped a lot. Like I've been going through seeing counseling for over 20 years now. So I'm very big. I'm a huge advocate of go take care of yourself, because if we're going to talk about it, one day we're going to have to come back to a fight that is coming down the road. It's coming. We is, you know, whether we like to admit it or not, it's coming. And we want to get there. Our mind's got to be right. The same way we talk about, we got to take care of our families to be able to work. Our minds have to be right, because if you're an analyst, if you are dealing in the flight deck with like things that could kill people like immediately, I need your mind to be there. And yes, we're gonna have different things that we're gonna have to worry about. Not life is not perfect, but mental health is just as important as any other muscle in our body.
100% agree with that. And I'm really glad, when you said that the resources are there, we just have to ask for them and find them. Something that I've noticed, and I think a lot of our listeners and just maybe some of the junior sailors in the Navy, um, I think they have a hard time getting over the stigma because it does exist, and I just wanna say, to everybody who might be dealing with that stigma or the fear of asking for help or maybe feeling guilty because, they may be letting their, team down. What did I just read the other day? A sailor posted that, they were struggling and that there's a term, right, called tapping out when you leave the ship for early for whatever reason. And that just hurt my heart because they were saying that they really didn't want to do it. They didn't want, their command to look at them like that. And they just saw it as such a negative thing. And, another part of this is, like I said, I really want to remove that stigma. So we had to stop saying things like that, right? Like it's not tapping out. Um, it's a good thing because, like you said, we have to take care of our mental health because what good are you staying there if you're not okay?
Yes, absolutely. So give you an example, because I had to unfortunately deal with one of my sailors committed suicide in September. And thankfully I was still going to counseling for my own reasons. Now it was another adding element to talk about, which was my sailor committing suicide, because it hit home a lot. He read my article, and he sent me an email, and he literally said, not verbatim what I'm about to say, but kind of I'm putting it like rephrasing it. But he said something to the extent of, it's good to see that I'm not the only one in the dark. Of course, that right away, brought all these alarms, and I read the email and ran back to our shop, and I was like, "Hey, let me talk to you." And I asked him. I said, "How are you doing, first of all?" And he's like, "I'm good." I said, "I applaud you for acknowledging that you are in a dark place." I said, "But what are you doing about it? Because we have to do something." He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to see someone, I'm seeing," and then I asked him maybe like twice after that happened. um but unfortunately, I could honestly admit, and I think that's why it hit me so hard, is that I didn't ask him again. I'll ask him like, "How are you doing?" every day, and how, every weekend, what you're doing this weekend, but I never had that conversation again. So unfortunately, he took his life. So talking to the counselor after that, one of the things she said, and she was talking more about his this my sailor's mental health, right? And for me to try to understand, in the sense of like, why would someone take their life, right? And she was saying that like it's so easy for us to sympathize and even understand when it's a physical pain that we see in someone. So like, and I bring that up to talk about this in the ship. If you, God forbid, you were in the ship right now and you break a leg and you have to get off the ship, nobody questions that. They're not calling you a quitter. They're not calling you. There's no stigma. There's nothing to that. Even if you will have like the top NEC, and Now in deployment is going to be rougher. Now we're going to go to two sections instead of three because we have a less body. There's nothing being said. I mean, there might be someone. There's always someone negative. So there might be someone. Oh, she broke her leg. Why she has to be so clumsy? You know. But that would be like one person, and then everybody else might even jump into that person and be like, "Be quiet. Don't say that. That's not right." You know. But why are we treating mental health as to, oh, that person just wanted to get off the ship? And I bring this counselor up because the way she's put it to me was, think about you having a pain in your eyes, you know a physical pain. You cannot close your eyes, you can't sleep, you can't think. She's like, now put that in your brain, and how you cannot do anything else because that pain is just so much. If it was something that is in the eyes, we'll go to the optometrist and try to get help and try to get the surgery, the drops, whatever we need. Why can it be the same way for mental health? I
Exactly.
rather you tell me, yes, I might lose you from my ship as far as a body, but one, I'm not losing you as a human because you didn't take your life or you didn't do nothing wrong, crazy. Or two, and two, is that I might lose you for a few months, maybe a year, because you're going through, but then I get you back in the Navy and I get you as a better person, dealing with the situation, know how to cope with things, have different ways to deal with the situation, even in time of stress. Now you become a better person and a better sailor. So
That's
yes,
right.
I lost you right now, but I gained so much more down the road, and
That's
I
right.
just feel like we need to have that mentality from all of us, because I see it in both spectrum, unfortunately. Like, I see it from the top. Hey, we just lost a sailor, you know like you said, it's the stigma. But then even our own counterpartners, like if that was my IT2, there's other IT2s that we talk, oh, he tapped out, like you said, like you call it, and that's just not fair.
Yep. We have
today
to
is
stop.
me Today is me, but who knows if tomorrow is you. Life is, God forbid if you lose someone that you really care about, and now you cannot cope with that. So now I make fun of you. Now you topping out.
Right.
So
Right.
come
It's
on,
not
we
right.
should
Yeah,
do better.
we gotta do better. Exactly. Exactly. So I don't want to hear anybody else talking about tapping out. And if you hear that, stop it.
Will do. Will do.
Yes. That brings me to the next thing. As you know, as a master chief in the Navy now, you make up such a small population. It's like the only the top and the best of the best, of our leaders and the military. I'll go ahead and say, become master chief. So, what would you say to our leaders out there when it comes to dealing with sailors and being supportive of mental health?
So I say that, if you treat that sailor with the level of understanding and caring that you really care, that and I use this a lot because I have two children and I love them dearly. If you look at him and say, if my child was in ship X or in command X, how would you want that leadership to treat them? Right? Because it's easy to kind of like, well, that's a sailor, I'll treat him as a sailor. And I know some leaders do that, and that's fine. Everybody has their own different way to leadership. As long as you're doing the proper way and you're taking care of sailors, some want to be more friendly than others, and whatever, to each his own. But if you look at it in that perspective, how would you want those that you love and care, whether it's your children, your spouse, your parents, whoever is really close to you, think about if they were in that situation and if they work for someone, how would you like them to be treated? Then you start looking at a sailor that wants and needs the help as, let me take care of them. And again, sometimes it's not even that deep that they're gonna get off the ship or get off the command. Sometimes they just need just to go talk to someone that's a professional. They can show them then how to cope with certain things, and then they come back stronger. They come back more willing, and they even come back with a higher level of trust because you, as a leader here, I'm speaking to the Chiefs when I say this, you were so willing to say the mission will still be there. We got you. Today, I got your back because I know tomorrow you'll have mine.
Yep.
And that goes such a long way when a sailor feels that he or she is being trusted, taken care of, that it's looked at more than just a number or another body. People will do amazing things when they feel part of the community. And when I mean a community, I'm talking about that command, that because it starts there. You could talk about all you want about big navy, but if your command, your division, that your work, even your own work center, because you could have different work centers within a division and then different work centers within a department. If it start that very low, where your own community, you feel like you're part of it, then it just continues to spread. Hey, because it's the same thing when it's negative. If your work center is toxic and negative, then you have the same outlook for the division, then for the department, then for the command, and then for the navy. Because how many sailors have you talked to or here? The only took was one chief, and now all chiefs are toxic or all chiefs are bad. The same way how I've been some sailors that only took one chief and they just love the khakis, and because that chief and devil treated them like human. So it's we make such a huge impact as chiefs, with our actions, with our words. Because even I give you an example. Because even if you tell me, "Hey, Master Chief, I need her," I made an appointment. I got to go see someone. Um, and then just my tone on how I take that can make such a difference. I could be like, "That's awesome. Glad that you're doing that. You know, let us know what you need." Or, oh, another appointment. See
Make
those
sure you
two?
bring the slip back.
Yeah,
Make sure
yeah,
you bring a doctor's note.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Why is the appointment at 1300? Why isn't it at the end of the day? Like, it's just
You know that, and that happens a lot
a
where
lot.
leaders will set these boundaries or these crazy rules when it comes to medical appointments and be like, you need to schedule all your appointments in the morning or after 1400. And that's crazy. That's crazy to me.
It is. It is. But it's all because there's this different mindset on well, things got to get done, and if you're not here all hours that everybody is, then or if I let you go, then I got to worry about everybody else being let go like that. Again, I'm just a firm believer that if you are open and clear and able to explain to a sailor, like, okay, yeah, your appointment is, hey, do the appointment whatever you can or whatever is available, because I want you to go get taken care of. That will just mean, unfortunately, that maybe not tomorrow or later on you're gonna have to stay late, but like, hey, this maintenance still needs to get done, so I might not be able to let you go early on Friday. But it's not because I'm saying that it's a punishment. It's just simply explaining, like, this maintenance needs to still be done. If I can assign it to someone else, right? um
Yeah.
but it's all about conversations, and without having the stigma out. Oh, because again, that same conversation, the maintenance still needs to be done. I might need you to do it Friday, instead of not doing it at all or doing it later, instead of saying, well, you still got that damn maintenance that need to be taken care of, so now you got to stay late tomorrow. And it's like, 'cause then that feels like a punishment.
Mhm.
And then why would you tell me again that you need to go see someone if you know you're going to get punished?
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, Master Chief said it himself. As a leader, we have to be accommodating and make sure our people uh, are he- are heard, right? And that they trust you as their leader to ensure that they can get the help that they need. And I also want to say, for maybe somebody who's not in a leadership position, or for that, E3, E4, E5. I'm all about promoting unity and teamwork, because when we work together as a team, things are just so much more efficient. So if you see your shipmate or your friend struggling, or they need help or they need to get somewhere, pick up the slack, volunteer yourself, take their watch. That goes so far. And that can also help with that kind of pressure to get some of these mission things done. But I'll never say that mission takes priority over somebody's health because we can't get the mission done if our
That is
people aren't
that is a
healthy.
great point because, like I said earlier, today is you, but tomorrow might be me. So
Hmm.
if I got your back, if I could take care of you, and you know what's crazy too is like a lot of the, especially in my me being a master chief and then my first class, second classes, there's such a gap, right? So, but it's amazing when you see them. I see my guys interacting and my group, and when they talk to each other and they're like, "Hey, I gotta do this tomorrow," whatever X appointment, and the other person is like, "Don't worry, I got you. I'll take care of this part," and they just so fluently when it's that. And then lastly, I'll add, as far as us as leadership and me as the master chief and just people, wearing khakis is it shows a lot when you are also taking care of yourself. And what I mean by that is it's a lot different than me saying you need to go get counseling, you need to go to your appointments, you need to go take care of this, you need to go take care of that. But I'm not. And I'm not going to counseling. And I'm not taking care of myself. Because to me, if I take care of myself, that means that I'm taking care of others. And what I mean by that is if my mind is right, if I'm ready to do the job and I'm trying to perform to my best of my abilities, then I'm able to take care of my sailors. If I'm in the grind all the time, I don't take my leave when I need to take leave. If I don't go, and decompress, if I don't go to counseling knowing that I have PTSD, all that's gonna do is show up in different ways and is usually hurting our sailors. And I don't mean necessarily physically, but I mean long hours. I talk to you any kind of way. I'm not compassionate enough. Like all the ways of how stress and lack of compassion shows up. So if anybody is here listening, there's a leader, whether it's first class, second class, third class, chief, master chief, whatever. Take care of yourself because that's how you take care of others.
100%. That I'm glad you said that. And one thing I don't want to bring up is in one of your interviews, you mentioned that leadership and commitment of chiefs encouraged you to strive to be a better person. And so can you expound upon what the chief's mess meant to you as a young sailor in the Navy and how it's kind of developed as you advance through your career?
Absolutely. So the first example, of course, is, and I know that thankfully, and I hope nobody has to go through anything like that, like the coal. But that experience and seeing how the cheese mess worked as a mess made us do certain things that we didn't want to do. That looking back, they were not bad. It was just simply that we didn't have an understanding. And I give you an example: like we were doing colors even though the ship was, you know, taking water and we were in tough conditions. But it was about the pride of the flag flying. That was one. Showing everybody that was looking for Yemen and any of those terrorists that did that to us that were looking, because I guarantee you that we're looking one way or another, that we were not going to be defeated. And then two is the sense of like even in our darkest moment, we still need to follow our customs and courtesies and honor the things that we need to do. So not only did they taught me that, but then you know one thing I saw in the during the call is I saw a lot of people crying, including myself, being super scared and just not having a clue where to go next, what to do next. And the one group that I didn't see doing that was the Chismes. So fast forward to 2011 when I made chief. I felt like I could ask the chiefs that were on board certain questions that I didn't want to ask before, just because I didn't feel like I was in their group yet. But now that I made chief, I was like I could ask them. Mind you, most of them were already retired. And I asked them, I was like, how come I didn't see one chief crying, or or just looking lost? And the two chiefs that I talked to, they said, "Oh, we did. We just did not do it in front of you guys. The cheese mess was destroyed and the coal, so they had to find like a space where to go to, and that's where they cry. That's where they argue. That's where they had their fears and scare. And they said, not because we didn't want to show you guys that we're human, it was because we knew that you guys were looking at us for the answers. And if I'm crying, and if I'm, you know, going, not being able to go with the moment, then I bring doubt to you as a young sailor. I'm literally someone that only had like 12 months in the Navy, you know. So that really resonated inside of me, in the sense of, like, they didn't say they didn't cry because I'm macho, or I'm so tough. They said that we just did it in another location, just so we could show you guys that, in the sense of, like, this is what you need at this moment, is our full attention, and for us to look locked in. The other thing that the cheese mess, through the years and before I became a chief and even after, is the level of resiliency that I've seen. You know, I've seen a lot of my brothers and sisters going through a lot of, like, terrible experiences, whether it's themselves or their own sailors. Like, for me, uh, suicide, like, literally in my own division, the first time and only time has ever happened was just last year. But there's been so many chiefs that had to deal with that, right? um and the things that they told me, and like how to deal with those things for themselves, not so much just only like as a leader and what they did with the divisions of the department, but like how they cope with it. And that resiliency to be able to still have quarters just a couple of days after, and understanding that, yes, we have to mourn our sailor and the brother or sister that we lost, but then the mission still needs to be accomplished, and then now find a level of pride of, like, we're going to do this as a team because of this sailor, for their memory, because he or she will want us to still thrive and be the best that we could be. um so yeah, and then lastly is that, what makes our Navy so beautiful, I see it in the mess, of course, but I I've seen it in my 23 years, is our diversity. I just love the fact that me and you can come from two different backgrounds, and here we are with the common goal, right? And that I could learn so much from you, and it doesn't matter that your age, your race, your, anything that might be different, your religion, anything that might be different from me. I take it as you just bringing something new into my life. And um, I seen that a lot through the Navy, and definitely I seen it through the mess. As I remember being in one mess where we had, from literally almost every corner of the world, and different religions, different, sexual orientations. Like, it was just a full rainbow. I like to call it a gumbo. It was a beautiful, well cooked gumbo where everybody brought something to the table, and then it just have made me a better person, not only just sailor, but most importantly as a person. So I'm very grateful to be in the cheese mess, and I just hope that I could leave something as much as other people have left on me.
I love that, and I'll bring up too because I thought this was hilarious that you even said that you when you were a young sailor before you even joined the Navy, you were a fan of the Chiefs uniform. it's
Yes.
yeah.
Hey, I remember the Johnny Cashes. I'm dating myself here. And I remember seeing, like, when I went to my recruiting office, there was a chief sitting there. For those of you that never seen the Johnny Cashes, please Google it. It used to be a fully dressed, like a fully, they call it Blues Brothers. They were black, so it made everything pop. The gold anchors and the ribbons and everything. And then I said to myself, I need to wear that one day because I want to look that cool. So I still take pride on the fact that I'm still wearing the same khakis that I wore when I got pinned back in 2011. and because they tell me if I'm, if I need to cut down on some things or I need to work out a little harder. But I take a lot of pride on the fact that I'm still able to wear my khakis that I wore now, almost 13 years ago. So yes, I love the uniform. I love wearing my khakis. I love how it makes your ribbons even pop some more. I don't know. I'm into fashion, so it makes it a lot better for me.
So, like I said, I love that you speak so positively about the Chiefs mess because although I've had my, traumatic experience with some Chiefs, that I'm very open about too. It's become full circle, and I lean a lot to the Chiefs mess to really teach me and mentor me and lead me to be a better person for the sailors that I lead and will lead as I continue my career. And I just want to say, as we talk about breaking down the mental health stigma, there's also a negative stigma around the Chiefs mess in the Navy that I say, contaminates our force because I want our junior sailors to trust the Chiefs mess and see them the way that you saw them as a young sailor because I'd say that, you are a walking, living, breathing example of how that trust and how, that admiration and aspiration to be like that, developed you into the resilient person that you are now and great leader and chief that you are now. And I don't want to let, like you said when we were talking previously, there's always going to be bad seeds in any organization. So I just thank you for shedding that positive light on the Chiefs mess so that we can start to repair that trust, which will hopefully encourage our sailors to start asking for help when they need it.
And I think thank you for you having that mentality and wanting to be open to understanding that like me and you spoke earlier that um we're just a mirror of society, right? And unfortunately we are going to have bad chiefs. There's no other way to call it, right? Just the same way we have bad officers, just the same way we have bad junior sailors. Like we're just a full image. Not saying that to excuse any bad behavior or how a chief treats a sailor or whatever. Um, but I just hope that we as a whole, as a organization, as the Navy, is that I beg sailors to give other chiefs the opportunity, to lead them the proper way. And I've been around the block a lot, right? And I have sat next to people that I was very disappointed that they were in the same uniform that I am. Um, but I also have said with a vast majority of people that I'm amazed of how knowledgeable they are about their job, how much they care about their sailors, how much they want to become better as a person, as a human, as a chief. Um, so sometimes it just simply is, um, understanding that not everything a chief tells you is necessarily because they just want to make your life miserable or worse. Sometimes we're just not as good with words as others. So I might take 10, 15 minutes to explain something to you. Other chiefs are, for better or worse, their leadership skill is to like say, no, this cannot be done, and you know, maybe not tell you the entire reason of the why. I just challenge you that if you ever felt that way, that you getting told no or that you're not being understood the way that you want. It's maybe as the to instead of shut down that chief, is like given the opportunity to say, hey chief, now that things are calm. Can we talk about the why this chit was not approved, right? Why you recommend it? Because by the way, no chief, even Master Chief Ponciano can say no to a chit. I can recommend no, but I cannot say no. So I'll throw that in there. And just ask like why you recommend that, and maybe a good chief will explain that to you. Should be able to explain it without just feelings. Should we say that this is because it's black and white, or this is because this is how we've been doing it? So let's say, I don't know, I want to take leave every Friday, just because I don't want to work on Fridays. And I'm like, well, I let you take leave, for the past month, but now two other people want to take leave. And I'm saying no to yours because I want them to be able to take leave. You could take leave again 2 months from now, on Fridays anyway. And they just simply have an explanation. You might not like it, or you might not agree with my explanation, but I feel like if we start giving people the opportunity to be able to talk, because if it was you that were saying something to me, or if you were telling me why you were late or why you didn't do a tasking, you will want me to understand your reason. So why can it be the same way? Not every chief wants to be toxic. Not every chief wants to be mean. Not every chief wants to be bad. We just, unfortunately, for better or worse, are the ones that sometimes have to say no. And this becomes even more upsetting when it's there in writing, but you as a sailor did not take the time to read it thoroughly or to ask questions before. Because maybe I have to say no to the way you wrote it, but maybe there's a way that we could get to yes if we sit down and talk about, hey, because like I was telling you about the Mako program that I just told you about. If I didn't
Mhm.
go to the details with you, you could have been like, oh, there's a program for cyber. I'm studying cyber, even though I'm a different, so I'm going to route it. But that's why I threw in there that it's only CTNs and ITs for now. If you didn't know that, if we didn't have that conversation and you just put in that shit, now I'm saying no, and all you seeing is me put a no, but not the conversation that could have gone with that situation. So again, yes, there is chiefs that need help, that need to do better, right? But the vast majority of us want to take care of our sailors and want you guys to take our place. I'm here to train my relief. I got 3 more years, and that's my sole purpose is to train my relief.
That's awesome. So, I also found out that you participated in the Navi 4 Mental Health Summit. And so with that, actually, I'll let you kind of just talk about, what that is. I didn't know that that exists, and I was very happy to find out as somebody in the information operations domain that something like that did exist and that our leadership was discussing it. So, yeah.
So it was initiated by Admiral Ashback, not by four, and which first of all I got to give her a lot of credit for setting that up and just making it a requirement, like a desire. This is what we're gonna do. So they had uh, uh, you know COs and XOs and CMCs and cells from all the commands within the domain, together with mental health professionals and IDCs and all these different people. And it was a 3 day just talking about mental health and what resources are there, and sharing what we do best, which is see stories on how we can make it better for our sailors. She is extremely concerned with the amount of suicides and how is it's deteriorating our people. And what I liked about it, the concern was not how many people are going to seek mental health, because that's a positive. If you're going to go see someone, that's a good thing. You're doing something. You're trying to get better. Her concern was about suicide and how that can be tied in, which it is in a lot of situations. Is I mean, there were some horror stories about sailors trying to get help, mental health, and because we have a backlog, that's just the reality of it. Unfortunately, this one sailor that didn't get seen for like 3 months, right? And
And
and and
and and I hate to cut you off
yeah,
here, but
no,
I
go
do
ahead.
want to say at this like important time, don't let that stop you because there are resources out there. There's nonprofits, there's crisis helplines, there's social media, there's podcasts like this. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Like, we will get you help. You
No,
don't have to wait.
absolutely. Thank you for cutting me off.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because that no, and I will even add. that if you're not getting, if you go and make that call, and you made it at home and you're not getting, talk to someone in your chain of command, because I could tell you right now, and it shouldn't work like this, but it does. That if you call me, let's say I'm ITCM, and I go to that hospital, we're gonna see somebody. Um, Maybe not that day, but not in 3 months, because either they're gonna find an appointment for that person, or you're gonna tell me the resources where I could take my sailors. So don't suffer in silence. 3 months is too long. A week is too long. Like, there is so many resources. So thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, so that was part of the horror stories. I mean, there was even XOs and CEOs talking about themselves dealing with depression and dealing with the weight of, you the CEO, and you have to take, and having to go for mental health. So it was an outstanding, I've gone to a lot of symposiums. I've gone to a lot of conferences that are voluntold to go to, and this is one of the ones that I was not only very, thankful that they wanted me to speak, but also just very grateful that it was done. And it means a lot when it's coming from a 3 star. When a 3 star is telling the rest of her COs to be like, no, you will stop for 3 days and you will fly. Because there were people from Bahrain, there were people from Sicily, there were people from all over, Hawaii, from all the different commands. They flew all in, and they were there to talk about it, to talk about resources, to talk about. We even talked about watch floors and how to make better for hours, and like all these different things. And we have professionals as well, so it was not just, Master Chief Ponciano, who's been to a bunch of counseling. No, it was the professional, the people on the other side, saying where the resources are, how to take advantage of some of those resources, and then also, looking at CEOs and saying like, hey, you got to take care of yourselves too, because if you show it from the top, then it becomes a culture of, it's okay to go to, to mental health, not only when it's the last resort. It should be when, like, we feel like we need to talk to someone, not when I'm drowning and I can't even sleep or eat or something like that. So yeah, it was a very important thing, and I'm very grateful that she takes it so serious, and I think they're gonna do another one this year. Like, I think she wants to make it a yearly thing, not just simply that year and then, go from there.
That's awesome. That should give everybody in the Navy hope, right? That our leaders see us. They see what's going on, they recognize it, and they are doing something about it. It doesn't
Absolutely.
happen overnight, right? But in the meantime, we can keep supporting each other, being good leaders and all that.
Yes.
So, thank you for sharing. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I read in an article about that summit was that you guys talked about warrior toughness and the extended operational stress control program. And so, if you could just go into those two programs a little bit, I think
Yeah,
our audience, yeah, could benefit.
absolutely. So I won't talk a lot about the operational program, because I don't know if it's like as well, right?
Okay.
I know that a lot of their a lot of the things that they're trying to do and they're in are very aligned with warrior toughness. So I would talk about warrior toughness because that's the one that I know best. Um, so for those of you that haven't heard too much about warrior toughness or just heard it like here and there, is a way that the Navy is trying to do a mental shift on regards to how we see toughness, um, and the way that warrior toughness is being talked about is in the sense of three major things. One is, the ability of taking a hit and keep fighting. That's warrior toughness. So that's one. It's just, you take a hit, and when we mean taking a hit, I'm not talking about just in a military wise. I'm talking about, God forbid, you know, something happens in my family, and I lose someone that I really care. That's taking a hit. that is an impact on my well-being, on how it is. But it's like, what am I doing to continue to fight? And that simply, it might just be go see someone. Like that is, keep fighting, is to say I'm not right. Let me go see someone so I can continue to do my job and perform as a man, as a father, and as a sailor. The second one is perform under pressure. And that goes into not only the military. If it's a fire on board the ship, am I going to walk towards the fire to save the ship and my sailors, or I'm going to walk back? So that same can go in just in human, and perform under pressure. We're talking about degrees and going to school. Am I gonna try to do the best I can to be able to get the grades that I need to get this degree, to get this certification? I have big dreams to be a nurse when I get out of the Navy. So am I gonna continue to do go to the school? Like that is. And then the last one is achieving that on a day-to-day grind. So we all go to, there the day-to-day grind. We have this constant grind. So is to try to excel day in and day out. And what that means is simply is, you know, did you give it your best? That's excelling. Excelling is not simply achieving the best score in an exam. Hey, you took your exam and you got 80 percentile. Good on you. The more of you, I never got that high, but the more people that get that, the better. Awesome. But if you could go to the exam and you said, that you studied, that you try to put the time, that you did everything you could, and you scored a 68, that's excelling because you gave it your all. Too many times our bar of what our excellent is too high, or too unfathomable, or we compare with other people, and your 100% is not equal to my 100%. Your 100% might be higher than mine, but can I look at myself in the mirror and say that day in and day out I'm trying to give 100%? And when I say that too, is that sometimes we have to understand that my 100% today is 50% of what it was yesterday, but it's still my 100% for today. And I'm just giving it my all to what I have. Like sometimes I need to fill my tank, and my tank is speaking to my children, seeing my children in person because I don't live close to them. So my tank might be at 50% because I haven't seen my children, but I'm giving you all I have, although it's only 50% full. Tomorrow, once I talk to my kids and I see them, it might be way back to where it used to be, and that is going to be my 100% for the day. So that's what warrior toughness is about. Is a mindset to trying to achieve peak performance in all that we do. And to do that, there is meditation, there is working on our muscles by being in tune with our bodies, understanding where hey, my legs feel this way, and that's not a usual thing. Like, what can I do to do better? Going to counseling, like that. Those are the things to get us to peak performance. Is to use our resources. Why is it so okay to go to the gym and work out? But then we don't put the effort to make sure that we're eating properly, that we're drinking enough water. Like, all that is part of peak performance. Training, taking training seriously, when we're doing certain evolutions, because today might be a drill, but tomorrow might be real life. So that's what warrior toughness is about. Is is changing that culture to understand that if in the time of need, and if something does happen, because again, we talked a little bit earlier that the war will happen, it's coming, something is coming. Are we going to be mentally and physically prepared to move forward instead of going back? So I feel like it's a great program. I feel like it's going to take some time, to get people to look at it from that perspective, instead of just simply, oh, what you talking about tough? Can I lift this many pounds, or can I shoot an individual if I'm in the line of fire. That is toughness to an extent, but it's more than that. Is to be at your peak at everything that you do and how to get you there.
That's awesome. It sounds like, it really, focuses on your mind, body, and soul, and just kinda getting you in that mindset to be able to deal with whatever, the Navy throws at you or life. Um, have you ever read the book, Grit by Angela Duckworth? Have you ever heard of that book?
I have, and I have not read it. So, but I
Okay.
have read. I read up. I heard about it, and it's actually recommended in the class, by the way, by
Oh,
the
really?
chap. Yes.
Yeah, so I read that book, actually when I was in the midst of recovering, from my trauma and the healing process. One of the things that I sought out to do was educate myself as much as I could on kind of my mind, what I was feeling. And one of the things that I really sought out was like, okay, how do people overcome and endure these tough things? And one of the books that came up was this book called Grit by Angela Duckworth. And so I read it, and it recently came up. As I was looking at warrior toughness stuff again, I was like, oh, there's a lot of similarities. And I bring it up because I want to point out that she's done research on the topic of grit, plenty of studies. She's a professional. And one of the things that she says is a lot of people believe that, you know, grit and the ability to achieve success or persevere through anything is inherent and it's based off talent. That's the belief. But her research proves that that's not the case, that we can actually be trained and developed to build that grit. So it really sounds like warrior toughness is able to do that.
Yes. So I haven't read the book, as I said, but if that's what we're talking about, that's exactly what warrior toughness is, and I think that's why the chap recommended it because is understanding that so the way they as you go through the class is they talk about resilience and they talk about peak performance. So resilient is your baseline, and then your baseline it's like as you so think about the batteries on a phone, why they tell you to not to plug it all the time. So the phone has is thinking about the fact that like, okay, last time, every time I'm being plugged in is after like 12 hours of being used. So what happens is the battery keeps building to be able to be good for 12 hours. But if you plug your phone after only 6 hours all the time, after a while the batteries only are good for 6 hours, right?
That must be why my phone dies all the time.
Yeah. So that is so then it's the same thing with us human is if you build yourself to be able to or think about it even in the gym, like if you continue to do build up to do 5Ks, they become easy as you continue to do more because you build in that resilience so that your baseline continue to increase. Peak performance is yes, my baseline is this, but at one point I'm gonna have to do a marathon for whatever reason. So then now I'm building to go to that peak performance, and then I can come back to my baseline. So what the warrior toughness is trying to do is to build you up that if unfortunately if you are in the situation that happened like us on the Cole is we had warrior toughness and resilience and all that just because we had so much training before it happened. And then by seeing our brothers and sisters either injured or passing away, we even got closer and said we were not going to get sink. The ship is not going to sink, and we're going to continue to fight even though the ship is not at the best condition. And we didn't even know we were doing warrior toughness back then. Um, but it's that is I felt as a little seaman that was just doing what I was told. I knew where to go and what to do because of the training that I had. And perfect example I give you, very simple, is before we were the bomb happened, we were having all these GQ drills, and we were sending Zebra in an observed amount of time. Like for a DDG, I think is somewhere in 8 minutes is what you want to set up Zebra. We were sending like 12, 13, 14 minutes, just horrible. But the day that the bombing happened, we set Zebra within 5 minutes. And now that I recall and looking back, I remember moving from forward to back aft and from back aft to forward. And each time I did it, I was closing hatches just by memory. Like I didn't even have to remind myself. It became muscle memory. So that's the warrior toughness. Is you
The Navy and the training
the
prepared your
training
mind and your
there you go.
body
And my soul.
and your soul, right? The heart and character that it takes to go through that, to still fight.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That that's awesome. That's a really good way to tie it together. And as the show is called, Seeds of Triumph, I would ask if you'd be willing to share your own personal seed of triumph, which is reframing of a traumatic adversity into the beginnings of progress. And it provides us all an opportunity to endure, learn, grow, and triumph.
So for me, um, and this is very personal. Um, it so a lot of people might think it was the cold, but it was actually my divorce. And the reason for that, not necessarily the divorce itself as triumph, but it it made me have to go to different kind of counseling. So I was going for PTSD for a while, and then I started to go to counseling for me as a person overall. Like, what do I need to do to become a better person? Because I was not a good person to my ex-wife, and that's why we got divorced. And what it did is allowed me to be more open about my own flaws. And what I mean more open is to acknowledge it myself. Like, you are not this person that you're saying you are, and about certain things, right? A certain aspect of my life. And the lady even recommended um this book called uh the Five Love Languages, which when you hear it, you're thinking about love, or, love languages. But it's amazing how it could go into any relationship that we have in life, right? It could go from our parents to coworkers to, a special person in our life. And I hit a very low point, right? Because I not only I was dealing with my PTSD for, my stress at work had brought me to a really high level. And then that, my marriage failed, right? Which, by the way, was all my fault. So, but yet, I felt so down. And I think I was able to pull myself up because I went to counseling, and then my light came as I started to question myself, but in a positive way. Like, I wasn't necessarily like telling myself you're a bad person, or you did it was just simply, you did this, how can we fix that? How can you become a better person? How can you be more loving? How can you be more understanding of others? How can you put other people first instead of you being as selfish as I was? Which you would have asked me back then, I would have been like, I'm not selfish. But deep down inside I was, right? And I'm still working through that. So to me, that was it, because I was, it's easy to feel low when you go through what everybody else feels like is pain and heartache, which is, in this case, in the cold, so much death. Of course, that was something that was always going to be part of me, and it was a huge moment in my life. But something like my divorce was very personal. It's me and her. Like, I mean, it affects other people, like my children, because, they see that happened. But as far as feeling, it's usually just the two people. Um, so I was very low. Although if you saw me from the outside, I was still a high performer and still doing the things that I do, and I was doing it well. But I was dying inside, and it it I didn't have a choice to pick myself up, because I started thinking about my children, my mother, and how I just wanted to be a better person, right? And I never wanted to make hurt anybody the way that I hurt my ex-wife. So I think that for me, because I changed a lot about me. Like that made me focus so much more. And I even, without a doubt, even I became even a better leader because I started listening more. Like it just and you become so much better as a person when you actually listen to people. It's amazing the things that you're able to accomplish, and the way you make people feel when you just listen. Because then that's when the little thing comes out, and it could just simply be, hey, hey, how was that play that your daughter went to, you know, last week? And they looking at you like, you remember that, Master Chief? I was like, yeah, we talked about it. And that's the beauty of listening. So that's been my triumph, that I learned how to listen. It took a while, and I'm still working on it, but that's the best thing that's happened about all that.
That's awesome. And you know what I got out of it is that you experienced something so negative, right? And dark for you. You even use the word failure. But now that we get to the triumph part, you can talk about it as something positive, right? You were able to learn from it, to grow from it. And ultimately, now you're a better person. And that is common throughout a lot of the hardships that all of us face, right? As we go through these things that are terrible. And at the time, we don't feel good. We don't know how we're going to get through it, but we do. And in the end, we come out better. So thank you for sharing that personal aspect of it, right? Because that is, um, very deep, and I know a lot of our listeners can resonate to that too.
Yeah, thank you. And I will say that again, if it wasn't because I was already going for counseling because of my PTSD, then I would have never looked for that other type of counseling, because it's two completely different type of things. PTSD, that I was the counselor that I was going to, it's in relation to that trauma and how to deal with that. But this one was about finding myself, right? And what do I want in life? And I had to like be honest about a lot of things, where and personal levels, and things that either I put a lot of weight towards her as my partner, or I put in myself thinking that I should be something because that's what society wanted me to be or whatever. Instead of being happy with who I am and accepting myself and having grace for myself. Because
Yes.
if you have grace for yourself, then you can have grace for others. And
Yes.
I needed that.
Yes. Yeah, I say that all the time to everybody. You got to give yourself grace, and people say it to me too because I'm not always that way. But it definitely keeps me grounded, and I was not always calm or positive, and I'm still not always calm or positive, but it used to be a lot worse. I can resonate, in my PTSD diagnosis, and even before I had a little anger temper control things, and um let's say what, maybe 8 years later now, it's like a complete turnaround, and I'm so much better for everything that I went through and all of these skills and techniques that I went through, and just as simple as self-talk, right? Being positive, affirmations, gratitude, something that you don't have to go and sit in front of somebody for. It really helps, and I'm not just saying that. I
No,
used to look at my therapist when she would bring stuff up like that to me like she was crazy, and I'm like, "That's not gonna work." But it really does.
it does. And actually, that's one of the many mindfulness things that you do in for word toughness, self-talk. You know, we all performance statements that we have that we don't even acknowledge or we don't even think. Like, for example, one of the things that we were talking about in my class, and I'm an IT and I love my rate, and I'm all about it, right? And now we were talking about performance statement, and I was like, we always talk about as ITs, there's no bombs without comms. That's a performance statement. Like, we are pumping ourselves to say that, because a lot of people think, and that just goes for a lot of the IW rates, where they feel like we're just in a room, that we don't necessarily are out there and doing certain things and shooting people and whatever. Well, you can do a lot of stuff that all the other stuff do without us.
That's true.
But that's
I
that's
love the ITs.
that is a way to self-talk to yourself by performance statements, by you're looking at yourself. If you're going to do an interview, we also talk about rehearsal. If you're going to go do a presentation, go ahead and stand in the mirror and say it. Do it. Try to do it if you're capable of doing it, right? And then just go over it. And instead of being super critical, look at what could you can improve, right? But instead of saying, "Oh, you did horrible," you just simply, "Oh, we need to work on this, we need to work on that," and then highlight the things that you did right, because we simply just go to the bad. What can I do better? My face look this way. It's too many on and all that stuff. Instead of saying, I did, I put out everything that I needed to put out. So I did that part, which is important. I was able to hit the key points. Like, look at the positive. And
Yes.
yeah, and self talk and positive talk goes a long way.
And it's infectious, right?
It
It
is.
spreads.
It
Yeah.
did. It does because it's simply sometimes. How about this? Like, you could be having a bad day, but we disguise it very well, right? So we're at work, we're doing our thing, and I don't know. You simply did something. I don't know. I asked you to bring me some folders, and I just said, "Hey, thank you very much. You know, thank you for that report that you provided, which you probably wouldn't even expect in that part, right? You just did your report that you do every day." But here's ITCM telling you, thank you for doing your job. But thank you. Like, I didn't. We were talking about something else, and I just simply just threw that in there because I thought about it, and just simply say thank you. Most people will look at that and say, he didn't have to say that. That's awesome.
Yep.
And it could just be something like that, and you can make someone's day. I don't know. It might not mean something, nothing to others, but to me, I'm always about giving people compliments one way or another.
It 100% goes a long way. It means a lot. I spoke in my episode about that. Like I had a chief for the first time coming out of that terrible experience that I had at my last command, and he said thank you. And I hadn't heard the word thank you from my leaders in 5 years. In the 5 years that I was there, nobody ever said thank you or appreciated. So hearing that, it was really a turning point. And so it's not a myth. It does matter. And when you say that, it means something. So,
Yes. It does, and it doesn't take anything, right? Like, it doesn't, like, the person that's saying it. I mean, and I understand we're in the Navy, so you got to be mindful of, especially if you're gonna say something about, I don't know, your hair looks nice. So I get it, be mindful of that stuff. But I feel like if I'm saying in front of everybody, because I don't got nothing to hide, and I simply the same way I tell my IT2, who the other day just got a nice haircut, and he's a guy, that I could tell you that you have a nice, like that. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with telling people, hey, or seeing pictures in your desk that of your, people that you care about, and your dog, and he's making a funny face, and you're like, that is so funny. I could see how that could like bring you to peace when you look at that. What's wrong with that? Like, life is tough already. Let's have a little bit of grace on each other.
yep. Yep. Yes. Well, thank you again for sharing your story. I want to give you a last kind of opportunity to, provide any message or advice to anybody that might be, going through their own PTSD struggle right now or any other mental health struggle.
Okay, so I have two things. The first one is to touch on that, is that you're not alone. There's a lot of us that are dealing with the same things as you are, the same struggles, or even worse, right? So there's no shame on looking for help, for acknowledging, because that's a huge step, and to try to become the best person that you could be. And the only way that you're going to achieve that is by looking for help, acknowledging that you need it and looking at it, and look, you know try to get the help that you need, and not look at it as being a burden to anybody, not look at it as not being strong. To me, you are 3 times, 10 times stronger when you do than that if you didn't, because it just You just want to become a better person, and there's nothing better than that. So um, use the resources out there and don't take a no. You know, from your chain of command if they are doing that, which I hope not. For medical, and they're telling you no, say something to someone else or start looking for other resources. Or if that person telling you there in that desk that they don't have an appointment into 3 months, ask them, where else can I go? Where can I find something sooner? So don't take a no. And then my last one is just in general. This is not about mental health. This is just about us as human. What is your legacy? And what I mean by that is my legacy is not what's in my collar, my anchor and 2 stars. It's not what's in my chest, my insane amount of ribbons or my or anything like that. My legacy is how I make people feel. Think about that as a person and how you go day by day and how people feel about you. When they talking about a sea story, when they're talking about home or as the brother, sister, wife, partner, what is your legacy? Your legacy is how you make people feel. And would you want to hear that legacy 20 years from now? Are you going to smile or are you going to say, I could have done better? And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Master Chief. So we talked about, the mental health resources that do exist and how, we can get around this stigma barrier that, the stigma doesn't have to exist and that, we can feel empowered by our leaders to seek help. And not only that, but we talked about how most of our leaders in the Navy, come from the khakis and the Chief's mess in particular, and that they really do have the ability and such a powerful influence to make a big impact on all of our lives. And then lastly, no one's in this alone. We're all in this together, and that you too can triumph. Thanks again, Master Chief, for coming on and talking with me. And thank you to the audience for listening in to this episode. If you are struggling with your mental health and you need help, please go to our episode description and click the link as it contains several mental health resources that could help you. Also, if you would like to contact the Seeds of Triumph podcast, please email seedsoftriumph.podcast@gmail.com.
The views expressed by the speaker and all guests are not those of the Department of Defense, United States Navy, or any other government agency. They are strictly those of the speakers who do not speak for any other organization or entity. The speakers are not mental health professionals and do not intend any of the content of this podcast as mental health advice. If you need professional mental health advice, please seek out your closest military or civilian mental health providers immediately.